we'll kick this around. All right, to everybody, thanks so much for listening to Fire Breathing Rob. We have somebody special on here that I could say he's the kingmaker of Florida politics in general. And this is Mac Stipanovich. Did I say it right, Mac? I'll say it over because we can.
Close enough for government work.
Okay. Max Stipanovich here. And as I told him, go Gators. We're both huge Gator fans. And with that, Mac, thanks so much for coming on the program. Greatly appreciate your time today.
No problem. Glad to do it.
All right. So let's kick this around and start this off first with the election coming up within 5 days. To go back to 2016 and 2015, Mac, how did Donald Trump become president of the United States, in your opinion?
I think that it was the culmination of a process that had probably been going on for 2 decades. I don't think that Donald Trump so much destroyed or corrupted the Republican Party as he revealed the moral bankruptcy and the corruption that was barely beneath the surface of the Republican Party. Almost going all the way back to Goldwater and his failure, and then I suppose subsequent disappointments by the right wing of the Republican Party in subsequent elections. You know, the Bushes were center right, Romney was center right, McCain was center right, and they all were convinced that they'd never gotten someone who was right wing enough, you know. And so he made that appeal in a very crowded field that splintered the rest of the vote, and he made the play to the right-wing populist segment of the party. They're not conservatives, and he is the quintessential rhino Republican in name only. Hell, he was a decade ago he was a Democrat, and people were angry. You know, the whole country and the world, in fact, is going through a very trying time. With it's almost like the inventing of the printing press or the advent of the industrial age or whatever, as we, you know, move from manufacturing and the old economy into the new digital economy and the information economy. People are being left behind, jobs are being lost. It's reconforming the country, and it's making people angry. And then you layer on top of that the fact that there are rapid demographic and cultural changes taking place in the United States. That long ago, it was illegal in damn near every state in the country that be homosexuals and be married. Now that's the rule, not the exception. It happened very quickly. Then you add to that the changes in demographics. America's becoming less and less white with each passing year, and soon the white majority will be a white minority. And it's created unrest that people wanted to strike out. And so they chose Donald Trump to be a disruptor. And they made a good choice. He's been disruptive as hell. But, you know, the way things are going, if the party doesn't change directions, and I don't know that it can, it's going to become a regional ethnic minority party. You know, the heart of the Republican Party is guys like me, older white guys, but without college educations, and we're dying. You know, the Trump base is not expanding, it's dying every day.
Well, my thing is, why guys like Jeb, and I know Jeb isn't a young guy, he's in his 60s, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but even guys like Marco that were really rising stars. We saw when Marco in 2013, after Obama got reelected, he was trying to make that deal for immigration reform, and all these Tea Party guys went after him and hit him hard, and he had to duck and run. So we're seeing guys like that are really the hope of the Republican Party get smashed like by Trump. We saw what he did to Trump did to Marco in Florida in that primary. So what is the hope for the young Republicans that are my age, in their 20s and 30s, that want young Republicans that are maybe socially liberal but economically conservative?
What will have to happen probably is that all of those people will have to be defeated. They won't change. And in other words, they're afraid of Trump.
Yeah,
They're afraid
right.
of pain, right? They're afraid of being defeated. So they have to have a greater fear of being defeated in order to become more moderate. And that will mean Democrats getting elected. If you want a more moderate, a more mainstream, a more center-right Republican Party, then you may have to support a Democrat against Ron DeSantis in 2022. You may have to, in 2024, stay away from the Nikki Haley's, who would have been a great candidate until she went full tilt boogie, Donald Trump,
Right.
Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton. Those are all cut from the same cloth, pandered to the same audience. And those people will have to be beaten often enough that they change their behavior.
I agree. Since you brought up 2022, I didn't want to go that way right now, but since you brought it up with the governor's race coming up, obviously, as I said earlier, we saw Ron DeSantis have very high approval ratings coming into office, did some good things, but with the coronavirus, his approval ratings went down. On the Democratic side, I see Gwen Graham obviously running, but we've heard also people that are on the progressive suasion, like Representative Anna Eskamani. I heard a lot of big things from her in Orlando, and also, and now her name escapes me, but the woman that was elected,
Nikki Fried.
Nikki Fried too. So with Nikki Fried, Gwen Graham, Anna Eskamani, are those the people you're seeing that might run against Ron DeSantis in 2022? And which one of those people would you pick to maybe give him a good run for his money?
I don't know the answer. I mean, yes, I would see those three as certainly possible, if not probable, candidates for governor in 2022. Anna's very young.
Yeah.
She could go now, lose, and then come back and win. Most people who get elected to the highest offices, whether it's governor or United States senator, have lost at least one statewide race. And what it does, you make a good, credible statewide race. It enhances your name recognition. Just making the run makes you credible for that office, and then you can run again. So it might be wise for Anna to make that run. It may be a little soon for her, but she's very active. She's very bright, smart, and there's kind of a continuum there. Gwen is a little older, has been to the rodeo already, and then Nikki is kind of in the middle, age-wise and otherwise. So that would be an excellent primary, and they're all stand-up good people, and I think they would all give Ron DeSantis all he wanted, particularly if you had a Democrat president who could deploy both money and prestige in that race in the general election. They could be a very competitive race in 2022.
Andrew Gillum's political, I guess we had a lot of high hopes, I should say, at the time. Is he pretty much dead?
I would think that there may be a role for Andrew as a advisor, a counselor, a wise man, and that sort of thing. But I would think that as relaxed and as much as the standards have changed in politics in America, I'm not sure they've changed that much. And so I would think it would be difficult for him to win a statewide race going forward.
I hear a lot of the Bernie Sanders people saying that Trump got elected because he was playing, and you just spoke about this, off that populism, and he did get some of the Bernie Sanders voters because of that. Do you think that Trump is a symptom of a bigger problem in this country, which starts with economic inequality?
Well, I think that Donald Trump is a symptom as well as a cause. He came to prominence because of people's anger and dissatisfaction, angst, envy, and he has fed it. So he's simultaneously a cause and an effect. There are many differences now between now and 2016. In 2016, he was an outsider, the disruptor, running against the establishment. Well, now he's the incumbent. He has 4 years to answer for. And while he continues to run as if he were the outsider, that's partly explains the dissonance in his campaign. You know, he's not really gotten any traction on a particular issue against Biden. You know, he's tried the law and order thing. He's tried the Biden's senile. He's tried socialism. He's tried Hunter, and nothing's really stuck. And what's really, I think, is what is at issue here is that this is a referendum on Donald Trump. It's just the nature of the man and the nature of his administration. It's an up or down vote on him. Hell, you or I can be on the ballot and would have a chance to win. So Joe Biden, who's basically a decent guy with broad experience and is running a very disciplined campaign, very focused, very on message. There are only 2 messages: character and COVID, character and COVID. And he stays after it day after day after day. And events have helped him, just like the spikes in COVID right now are helping him. So this is a different race than 20, and Biden's a different candidate than Hillary.
But I agree with you 100% there. But Mac, my thing is, even if Joe Biden wins this election, Pandora box is the box is open. The white racists are out there. The QAnon people are out there, and they're not going to go in that box quietly. And I don't think they're going to go in that box, period. So with that said, are you worried about maybe a race war that these people that are drummed up by Trump's racist rhetoric could start this, even if he doesn't win a second term, because people listen to him like he's Jesus Christ? Let's be honest.
No, I'm not sure that. Well, I don't think that will happen. And the reason I don't think that it will happen is that I would like to believe that the American people, even folks who have been beguiled by Trump and have become, will pull up far short of that. There are plenty of right-wing crazy people in the United States. And there's a fair amount of crazy left-wing people in the United States. We need to reassemble a center. And for example, a Joe Biden is a center-left guy. I mean, they can talk about him being the cat's paw for socialists and communists all they want to. It's just not true, and it's not believable, and that's why it's not working. And you talk about here in Florida, Anna is pretty progressive. She's, fairly left wing. She's out there, but not Nikki and not Gwen. And so I think that hopefully is the future of politics for the next few election cycles, for the next decade or so, is the reassembling of a center in American politics. Now, will there be people caterwauling on the sidelines? Absolutely. But I would disagree with you a little bit. I'm not sure that we can't pretty much put them back in the box. Trump let them out, and he enables them, and he encourages them. But when that encouragement stops, and when it's like smoking cigarettes, okay? I used to smoke cigarettes on airplanes, movies, restaurants, whatever. But when cigarettes got to be not cool, everybody stopped smoking. And you look bad, and you're socially marred if you smoke cigarettes in public now. I think some of that will happen again with the crazies, that it won't cease to exist, but people won't be cheering when they parade down the street in their Red Dawn cosplaying outfits.
I hope you're right, Mac, but we do need a Republican to stand up and fight. I thought Romney was that guy. We saw during the impeachment where Romney stood up and voted for that impeachment, the first vote, but the second one he voted against that. And he did speak out a lot against President Trump in the campaign, but he just seems to cower down to President Trump. Who is going to be the Republican that is going to stand up against President Trump, that has the cojones to do this? Because I don't really see anybody right now.
Well, I don't know that I see anybody either. I mean, there are people who've taken some issue with him, and if he's defeated, particularly if there's any kind of major defeat that ripples over into the Senate ripples down the ballot into the House races.
Right.
I think you'll find a number of elected Republican officials who will suddenly discover that they didn't like Trump all that much anyway. And they will discover the courage now that they don't have. But I'm not sure that that we know the man or the woman or the men or the women who will be the future of the Republican parties now. It may be state senators. It might be a Nikki Fried who gets to be governor of Florida, or an Anna Eskamani, or some contemporary of theirs in New Mexico or Nebraska. It may be some businessman who steps off the sideline as a center-right guy. So much of the Republican power structure is so tainted and discredited by Donald Trump and their support for him that I'm not sure that the future leaders of the party, if the party is going to become something other than, like I said, a geographical ethnic party, that we know who they are yet.
I want to move on, Mac, to this. We see that over 7 million, 7.7 million to be exact, people have voted in the state of Florida so far as early voting and mail-in ballots. With that said, Joe Biden is leading by 1 to 2% in the Florida polls. What is your opinion? Because you are a kingmaker here in Florida as far as knowing the landscape of the state. Do you think Joe Biden has a shot at winning the state, or a good shot, a mediocre
I do
shot?
think Biden has got a good chance of winning the state. The polls, and we can talk about the polls here in a minute, the polls have consistently had him ahead. He's never really trailed in any credible poll, and they've been consistent between 3 and 5. 3 and 5. There's 2 new polls out today. I think one has him 4 among likely voters, and the other has him 5. Well, he's not going to carry Florida by 5 points.
No.
It's going to be close. But you know, if you had to choose and you had to literally bet the ranch on it, you would bet on Joe Biden in Florida. The premise that, well, Trump will win anyway is a result of the surprise we all had in 2016. And part of the narrative there is the hidden Trump voter, the shy Trump voter who can't be polled. They're out there.
Right.
Well, I don't know about down in Orlando, but there's no shy Trump voters up here where I live. There's 50 signs in their yard. There's flags on their cars. They're driving their boats around in circle. Shy my ass, you know. So I'm not buying that at all. Right now, we're just down to a turnout situation. I think the turnout is higher in Broward, for example, than it usually is, which is a great sign. I saw somebody posted something a while ago, I think Mike Madrid, that there's like 485,000 people over the age of 65 who voted in Florida already, who did not vote at all in 2016. Wow. Well, I don't think those people are going to the polls to vote for Donald Trump in the COVID thing. Now, I've read that there's also a large turnout among young people, the 18 to 24 in Florida. I don't know the numbers in Florida, but in Texas, it's amazing. It's like something like 730,000 people in 1824 have voted in Texas, where only 160 had voted in 2016. So something's happening. Something's happening.
I hope you're right. Mac, I want to move on to this and let's go to the year 2000, go back a little bit down memory lane. With that, can you tell the viewers that don't know about you and speak about your role in that election of 2000 in depth?
Well, I had been a participant in Republican politics for quite a while by the time 2000 rolled around. Right. I had, managed Bob Martinez's winning campaign for governor. I'd been his chief of staff. I'd been the executive director for Ronald Reagan and Reagan Bush 84. Yeah. I'd advised Katherine Harris in her winning Secretary of State's race, which is how I ended up being involved in the recount. So when the recount went down, I was called and asked if I could go into Katherine Harris's office and advise her, what was going to be a very difficult, very important, long process. And I did. I went into her office on Thursday, November 9th, 2000, 2 days after the election. And I didn't leave, except to go home and sleep at night, for 17 days. She certified the vote in Florida and gave the presidency to George Bush on November 26th. which coincidentally was my birthday. So it was quite the present. So, you know, I've always been kind of a Bush guy, whether it was 41 or 43. And, you know, Jeb was Secretary of Commerce when I was Chief of Staff, and then I helped him in his elections. So it made some sense for me to be in her office and advise Katherine. It was quite the rodeo.
And a lot of the liberals say for the Gore campaign, and I think you'll attest to this being true. The liberals, as far as the Gore campaign, made a huge mistake in that when they started trying to recount the ballots, they only aimed at those 3 Democratic counties, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade. What they should have did, and you can see if you agree with this, they should have recounted the whole state in general at first, instead of just recounting those 3 strong Democratic counties. You agree with that?
Well, that might be the case, because the folks who didn't know how to vote in Palm Beach County and Broward County are the same folks who didn't know how to vote in Sarasota County. You know, people asked me at the time, well, why don't y'all ask for recounts in Sarasota County, which is a pretty heavily,
Right.
Republican county. And I said, well, who the hell do you think doesn't know how to vote in Sarasota County? It's the same folks. It's infrequent Democrat voters. So you're probably right. There were actually 4 counties, by the way. It was Dade, which never counted, Palm Beach, which never finished, Broward, which did, and Volusia was the 4th. Volusia just put his head down, started counting, didn't ask anybody for advice. And of course, it was a much smaller county than the other 3 big ones, but they finished and sent in an appropriate recount.
Right. What are the other mistakes you feel like as far as the Gore campaign? I know you on the other side, but you know, as a person, my thing is, and I see the liberals all the time, and it seems like when they're in that situation, we even see it in the Supreme Court with what happened with Donald Trump and Amy Coney Barrett. It seems like they're weak fighters. They don't know how to fight. The Republicans and the conservatives know how to fight a battle. They're ready to go. The liberals always try to negotiate, and they're weak. Do you agree with that? They just don't know how to fight?
Well, a little bit. Somebody in one of the books that was written about the recount, I can't remember which author it was, said that during the recount, the Democrats were bent over their calculators while we were breaking bar stools over their heads.
I agree with
and I think that is probably, there's some truth in that. The point you're making now is also somewhat applicable in 2020. If you look at the most effective media campaign, the most slashing, the most damaging to Trump, it's the Lincoln Project. And there's other people. It's all Republican. It's Mike Murphy. It's all of the former top drawer Republican political consultants who know how to gut you with a dull dairy handler.
What do you think would have happened if Bernie Sanders won the nomination and went up against Trump? How would that affected people that are very conservative, such as yourself too, and these people that are in the Lincoln Project? Would they have made those commercials for a person that's a Democratic socialist?
I think they would still have been against Trump, but it would have been an entirely different election. Trump would be in much better shape.
Right.
I think America is sick of the controversy. They're sick of the drama. They're sick and tired of Trump. And what Biden represents is one of the complaints about him is, well, he's just old establishment. He's just the way, the old status quo. And the answer to that is yes, exactly. Exactly. We've had about all that we can stand. And so the Democrat Party was smart collectively. They nominated the right candidate. If they'd have nominated Bernie Sanders, this would have been a totally different election.
Agreed.
But, he would have been totally open to being savaged as a socialist who would make America the next Venezuela and stuff like that. They've tried that on Joe Biden, and their dog just doesn't hunt. So they picked the right guy.
Let's kick around because I got a few more questions left, but I want to talk about, to end the section about 2000. We saw, Mac, in 2000, you were a part of this. What happened? We see now Donald Trump, he's already got, and I was told this, and you may know because you're a kingpin still in the state, that there's over 20,000 lawyers already in the state of Florida ready to kick some butt from both sides of the aisle if that's needed. And that's what I've heard. And I'm worried that with Trump saying all this voter fraud, voter ID things, and making sure that votes aren't going to count, that's what their objective is, that we could have a repeat, whether it's in Florida, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, whatever it may be, of the year 2000. Are you worried about that?
Not in Florida so much.
Right.
We learned a lot in 2000, changed the law in a lot of ways. We had 3 recounts in 2018, and got through them just fine. And there were allegations of fraud then from Rick Scott and Matt and Caldwell, seconded by Trump. And so this is a rodeo we've been to before. We have a long, extensive history with absentee ballots. They're counted before Election Day. Broward sometimes comes in late. Dade sometimes comes in late. But we're going to know who won Florida. Well, we're going to have the vote in Florida Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. The only question will be whether it will be less than 0.5%, and we're going to have a recount. But if we have a recount, we've done that too. And so I think that if you were looking for the next Florida, it would be someplace like Pennsylvania, where the lawsuits are already flying about how long, when ballots have to be dated, when they have to be received, 3 days, 9 days. Supreme Court has basically said we're not going to decide that now. So there could be a ruckus in Pennsylvania, maybe some other places like Michigan. But I think that in 2000, it was really about 2 broad categories. One was the legal standard for judging voter intent, the hanging chads and all of that sort of thing. The other was enforcing the deadline. What deadlines applied? When did you have to finish the recount? And that's what we fought over. That's what the fighting will be over so much in Pennsylvania. Trump talks a lot about fraud, but so far, not only has there not been any evidence of fraud, there really isn't any significant voter fraud in America. There's been 2,000 or 3,000 confirmed cases out of hundreds of millions of votes in the last decade. So that's ridiculous. That's just a preemptive strike to excuse potential defeat. It'll be a mechanical process about which ballots should be counted. And at the end of the day, that'll be a legal judgment.
But my thing, Mac, that I'm worried about is if Joe Biden doesn't run away with this, Trump's going to start with that crap that he started in 2016, saying it's rigged. Vote, I know you just spoke about voter fraud, but he's going to bring up all those code words again, and that's going to rile up his base. And that's why I'm worried about riots and some of the stuff that happened.
Well, there may be violence and unrest associated with all of this, but when all is said and done, every state will certify its vote. It may take judicial decisions to do so, but somebody's going to win Arizona's votes. Somebody's electoral votes. Somebody's going to win Florida's electoral votes, and they're going to add up to 270 or they're not. Now, there's a lot of things that could happen between here and there, but I believe the process will work. Now, he puts as much strain on it as it can possibly bear, but I believe it'll work. And it is my hope, based on what I see, not inside knowledge, that the margins will be so great that the argument will be purposeless.
Last 2 questions, Mac, on the virus. Obviously, we know what's going on right now. You have been in the office with President Reagan, President Bush, Jeb. Those guys have all made huge decisions, whether it's in the White House, whether it's in the state of Florida with Jeb. With that said, what is your opinion on how Trump has handled the virus?
Well, he hasn't handled the virus. He's minimized it from the very beginning. You can listen to the tapes he made, and he knew that it was serious. He said he was going to minimize it. He said he wasn't going to, didn't want people to panic, but that was just an excuse. He was worried about the effect on the stock market. And at the end of the day, being Donald Trump, He thought he would just be lucky. He thought it would just go away. You know, he has had the ability, and he has succeeded throughout his life in being able to, just by sheer force of his will, bend reality to suit his narrative. COVID doesn't give a crap about his narrative. It is a virus, and it is savaging the country, and I think it ultimately is going to defeat him.
Well, the thing is, it kills Democrats and Republicans as far as the virus. But what I'm worried about is all of his followers. Again, they won't take the vaccine when it comes out. A lot of them are saying they don't want to use the mask. They don't want to social distance. So this virus could affect our lives for maybe 2 years. Who knows how long?
Well, that's what Dr. Fauci says, is that we won't have a virus that may not be better than 50% effective until maybe June of 2021. And we won't be out of the woods until 2022. I mean, but you know, it's like the way that Biden models the correct behavior in his campaign. He will do so as president. I would not be surprised to see a national mask mandate. Now, can it be enforced? No. Will people still show their ass at Walmart and have to be thrown out by the security guards? Yes. But will the country, if given an example and given the lead, follow it? I believe they will.
If you were advising Governor DeSantis right now, what would you tell him to do? Because he is following Trump's lead. We saw him with the rally in the Villages when he was with the president. He's run around slapping five with people. No one's wearing masks. This is an intelligent man, Mac.
He started and led the CNN sucks chant in Tampa today at the rally. There's nothing. Well, first place, I wouldn't work for Ron DeSantis, but there's nothing he can. There's really nothing he can do now. He is committed. He's got to ride this sucker to victory or defeat. He can't shake off Trump. He can't wash off that stain. So he's got to go with it.
But what's going to happen if Trump gets defeated? Because, like you said, he rode Ron DeSantis rode Trump to the dance. He beat Adam Putnam because of that.
That'll actually be better. That'll actually be better for DeSantis if Trump is defeated, because it'll give him 2 years to try to sidle away a little bit from where he is right now. But he's going to have to, in 2022, he's going to have to answer for what he's done.
What can a Governor DeSantis or even a President Biden do if he does win to get this country under control as far as healthcare and the economy?
Well, what is there on the 9th, 12th, something like that, November, there's going to be an argument on Obamacare in front of the Supreme Court. We'll see what they do. If it's a Biden presidency and a Democrat-controlled Senate, they can enact new legislation. I would not be surprised if they got rid of the cloture rule so that they can pass legislation like that by majority vote. If it's Trump again, there's going to be a problem. What could a governor do? He could expand Medicaid, like 37, 40 other states have done, and let the feds help finance expanded Medicaid for people who need it. So, I don't know. The state and the country has an awful lot of work to do. It had a lot of work to do before Trump, and now it's got a lot of repair work to do, and then more on top of that.
So we have young people like me that are listening of all parts of the spectrum, Republicans and Democrats. Obviously, you have kids and grandkids yourself. For all the people that are young and growing up, what kind of hope can you leave them to end this interview?
Well, what I would tell y'all is that literally the future's in your hands. Don't despair. Don't give up. Be involved in the process, and try to be as principled as you can, and then contribute, work, and it'll come right in the end. It'll come right in the end. I'm counting on you guys.
Mac, thanks so much for your time,
right.
and I appreciate your service to the country in general. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right.